When I reached out for help, I realized that I hadn't been in my body for a really long time. A lot of people choose not to do deeper work or therapeutic type of work because they're afraid of what they might uncover, or they don't want to look at themselves.
Just by having compassion for ourselves, we help everyone around us have compassion for themselves, even if we don't explain that this is what we're doing.
A huge part of that work is developing compassion for ourselves and releasing that shame.
Fresh insights into what it means to lead today. Hi, welcome to the Uncommon Leadership Podcast. Here's what's about to go down. I am just about to start a conversation with a guest, and to start that with a question that they invariably tell me they have never been asked before. And then we'll see where the conversation goes from there. Because this is not a march through 20 questions and then we're done podcast. This is a start with a question that gets my guest and me thinking, and then discover where the conversation goes from there. If you are looking for a curious, introspective, thoughtful, probably funny, hopefully lots of great stories podcast, then this is very much up your alley. I'm Michael Hunter, and I will see you in the episode right after, now. Whether you want more innovation more easily, you are feeling burnt out or overwhelmed, or you simply know that something isn't quite the way you know it can be, you are not alone. I hear the same from leaders every day. On Uncommon Leadership, we explore aligning personal fulfillment with business success, creating authentic teams, and cultivating the resilience, adaptability, and ease necessary to move beyond simply surviving today's challenges into thriving. I'm Michael Hunter with Uncommon Teams, and today we'll uncover fresh insights into leading in the world today. Joining me is Karen Canham. Karen is a nervous system and neuro-somatic coach who helps high-achieving founders, leaders, and professionals move from chronic stress and emotional reactivity into clarity, resilience, and self-led leadership. With a background spanning corporate leadership, somatic healing, and neuroscience-informed coaching, Karen bridges the gap between strategy and the body, helping people regulate their nervous systems so they can think clearly, lead effectively, and build sustainable success without burnout. She's the creator of the Self-Led CEO Framework and the author of Wired for Resilience. Welcome, Karen.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited for our talk.
I've been looking forward to this. When did you first recognize that integrating your whole self, bringing that into everything that you do, might be a valuable approach?
In my 20s, so 20 or so years ago. Yeah.
What was it then that brought that insight?
I was struggling in life in general. I was coping maladaptively, and that led to me not functioning at my highest self. I was still going to work, but there was a lot of struggles of like depression and anxiety. And when I reached out for help, I realized that I hadn't been in my body for a really long time. And so that awareness, and then coupled with awareness of just looking at myself as my whole self instead of just my brain.
What was it that triggered you to realize you couldn't do this any longer and you needed help to move through it?
I was really unhappy. I was working and probably overworking at the time. And I would go home and pretty much collapse, numb myself, whether it was just like watching TV or, sitting and scrolling or just going to sleep. And then it would start all over again. And that's not a life at all.
And yet this is the life that a lot of us has. What was it that finally you decided this is not the life that I want? What helped you recognize that you weren't going to do this any longer?
I recognized that it wasn't me. I mean, earlier in life, that's not how I had lived my life. I enjoyed a lot of things in my life that it was hard for me to find joy. I knew that, even going into adulthood, that yes, I saw it a lot around me, and I saw that was a lot of like what adult life was, but it was something in me that was like, yeah, this is not the way that I'm going to do it, and there has to be a better way. I've always been more of a spiritual type of person, really connected with other people and nature. And so not being connected, losing that connection was detrimental to me. And knowing that being connected to self and outside of self was really what I was missing, led me to that path.
When you started working with someone to shift this around, I imagine you discovered a lot of things about yourself that you weren't happy with. That can be pretty scary and almost worse on its own to deal with than the shift that got you there in the first place. What was that like for you?
This is a really good question. I think this is why a lot of people choose not to do deeper work or therapeutic type of work, because they're afraid of what they might uncover, or they don't want to look at themselves. To be honest with you, I've always been a really deep person. I think that's partly why I got into the position that I was, because I was highly sensitive. I was attuned with other people. I could feel other people's emotions. I had a lot of awareness. I was really insightful. So that part of it wasn't scary to me. I remember at one point, the therapist that I first started working with, she told me the way that I was communicating in that moment was self-righteous. And that's something that I still remember to this day. And so, yeah, of course, there were times when it was like, what? That's not me, that's not what I'm that's not my intention, right? But to have someone else give you feedback of how you're coming off to other people is essential. And that's something that we need to pay attention to, even when it's not our intention of, what we're trying to convey. It's really allows us, I think, to shift our behavior and learn new ways of communicating and learn new ways of being when we're able to get other people's feedback. And it's not just from one person. I think it's so important to surround yourself with many different types of people, so that you're able to understand yourself more and how you show up in different situations and how different people will react to you.
Yeah, for sure. Having all those different viewpoints is so critical to getting a full picture of what's going on. Having been outside of your body for so long, what did it feel like when you came back in?
Not comfortable. I honestly don't remember like the first, I didn't know what my feelings were. I had a hard time identifying what my feelings were. I might have a basic feeling of like, I feel sad, but really what was underneath that, I didn't have a really good awareness. It was overriding emotions for so long and continuing to push through that really dumbed those senses of what I was really feeling down. So that, I think, was the first step in learning, what I was feeling, and then where I was actually feeling those in my body was a different story. Yoga actually was the thing that I was able to do in the beginning. It was the only practice that I was able to do in the beginning that allowed me to start to feel the sensations in my body. And then, of course, it was a journey for me to be able to kind of go in deeper over time.
How has your understanding of how your body helps and hinders shifted as you've rekindled your relationship with it?
That's a really great question and a broad one. I'm aware of my body even sitting here right now. I just was able to get like a quick workout in, and I feel like a little bit, I'm glad I did it. I feel calmer from that workout, and I feel a little bit warm from that workout, but I also feel more present than if I wasn't able to get that quick workout in before I sat down for this conversation. And part of that was me being in tune with my body. I started work this morning around 7 a.m. Eastern time. And, I was feeling a little heightened, a little more into that sympathetic energy. And I can, at that point, normally in the past, I would have just like pushed through that energy. And now it's like, you know what, I need to kind of like take a break and kind of release some of this energy. And that's really helpful to bring me back into this more regulated place where I can be calm and connected and curious. So it's a constant, after doing the practice for so long, there's a constant awareness of what's going on in my body. And why it's so helpful for me is because I'm able to intervene before it becomes a message to my brain that then is solidified, and then that solidification of that process to my brain then solidifies behaviors. And so that's really the main thing of why getting into your body is so important. We can intervene before it gets into the brain and before it creates these patterns that can be more challenging to interfere with and break.
That is super interesting. This idea that we can notice what's going on with our body, and that by intervening at that point, we can actually head off the patterns we are trying to change that our brain is used to doing. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you discovered by accident along the way, or has this been an intentional part of what you learned or were taught during the journey?
Yeah, for someone who is more of a visceral type of person, it's something that I knew. But the science now tells us that this is in fact a fact, that it starts in our body. And if we can intervene before it creates these patterns in our brain, it's extremely helpful for stress levels, chronic conditions, many types of things. It was a journey in itself of, I knew what was helpful for me, and there were certain people that also knew if they were more of a visceral type of person. And now we have science-based facts that we can give to people, and it still can be challenging. Part of the work that I do, I work for a neurologist. He's a specialist with brain ear disorders, and it can still be challenging in that environment to really relay the information of how much is created in our brain, and these patterns, these actions that we're doing or these thoughts that we're having that create these patterns in our brain, and they just become automatic, and that we actually can change those things. It's really cool that there's a lot of science now, and there's so much more studying going on that we can point to that. And so then we're able to expand the audience that we're reaching with the work that we're doing.
How do you find having the scientific backing to concepts you may have always viscerally understood is helping you shift the way that you relate to your own body and your own self?
It's really opened me up to learn the science. I know that sounds silly, and I love science growing up. But I still am a very visceral person. And so if I don't feel the results in my body, then I don't attach to the facts of it all that well. However, I will say now that when I read the science of it and it's like, oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I've noticed like that in myself for like a long period of time. or when there's new concepts that are introduced to me, I'm able to allow myself to go into the science even more so, and kind of be able to communicate in different ways to different people, because a lot of people do want that science-based factual information.
Is that important to you, to be able to be expanding the numbers of people that you can communicate this to?
Yeah, I mean, I had someone say to me recently, like, well, remember when chiropractic care was really like, oh, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. And now it's really mainstream. I mean, I see chiropractic offices everywhere, corporate chiropractic offices. A lot of people talk about it. There's still a population that is like, oh, yeah, I don't know about that, right? But it's much more mainstream. And so it's not a goal per se, but it's I know how much of a difference the work can make. And so if we can get this work to people and get it more, how do I want to say, even like a norm and like a working place type of training, or a norm and like school systems, and start thinking about things differently, and how we are as a human being, it can really, I believe, and I know just from what I've seen people who do this work, it will change a lot. And how we operate in the world, how we show up, how people communicate with each other, understanding of each other.
1 second away from the episode to say, please go subscribe down below, hit the bell notifications so you find out when our next episode comes out. And now back to the show. What matters most to you about helping that change come about?
I think there's a lot of people that are different, of why they might come to me. Some have chronic medical conditions. Some are in so much severe pain from their medical condition that it's debilitating. So of course, in those situations, I mean, you want to get them back into their baseline. Then there's people that may come to me that, are really high functioning. But it's like, the way that my relationship is with my child is not what I want. I see patterns that I saw, from my experience in my childhood, and I want to break those patterns. Or, my relationship with my spouse, we're just like not communicating well, or, a lot of people will come to me with that work situation that I gave in the beginning of working and then coming home in this collapse and kind of like numbing out. So there's different populations. All people can benefit from the work. And I think that the population of when you're in some type of chronic condition, or it's you're in dire straits with your relationship, you may be looking at divorce, you're really having problems with like your kids, things like that. Those are people that are more apt to be like, yeah, I really need to do something. And then there's some people that just really understand this work and believe in it and are like, you know what, there's more to life. And I'm just that type of person, that I'm really, a grow type of person, and I want to explore like all the things that are out there to explore.
So is it then that you are hoping to bring more ease into each of these people's lives?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. A lot of what I see out when I'm in the world, I'll explain it like this, is like a very short fuse. We can say it like that. In our world, we talk about capacity a lot, and this nervous system work is that our capacity is really small. We're reacting to everything around us. When I say reacting, we have some type of either outward reaction or internal reaction. And we can usually, we can feel that in our systems. We might not be aware of that feeling in our system. But when we start to do the work, we are aware of that internal reaction that we can have. All the times that we have these reactions, we're taking ourselves out of that regulated place, and we're going into places that are either like a heightened type of place or more of a shutdown type of place. And it's normal as a human to do all those things. But when it becomes chronic, or it becomes just like our way of being, then we can get stuck in these places. And that's when we start to see medical chronic conditions happen, or we can see like issues that are arising with like relationships at work or with other people. So yeah, what we want to do is it's really important to me, because with everything that's happening in the world, as far as like all the things that are thrown at us, the world's moving really quickly, the demands are really high, there's financial pressures going on, there's political things, like all of these things that are going on. How do we show up in the world in a different way? And how do we become really unshakable in ourselves, so these outside factors aren't disrupting our nervous system?
Those outside factors are relentless, especially for executives today. It can seem nonstop. Every 5 seconds, there's a new fire coming up for me to fight, a new decision for me to make that no one else can make, they claim. Even if I know that none of this is true, none of this is what I need to handle, I still have to deal with everyone believing that I'm the one who has to do it. And so either I have to take the time and make the decision, and or help them understand why they're actually better suited and to make the decision, and or help them work through all the same things that I'm working through, so that they are able to do this themselves. That is so much. How can we take that first step towards letting all of that go, taking the time to recognize what's going on, even if it's just a few seconds, and starting to normalize bringing ourselves back into equilibrium with who we are?
Yeah, I like that you said that, because the world around us is not going to stop. The demands that we have at work are not going to stop. And a lot of times, even when we talk about this burnout, it's like, oh, well, my job's making me work too long, or there's too much pressure on me, or it's really usually not the case. Sometimes we can get to the bottom of it and it's like, yeah, this position probably isn't the right fit for you personality wise. But a lot of times it's all of these other factors that are going into place. And one of these is a reactivity. And what you're explaining here is when you start to get into that loop of like, I have all these things to do. I have all these things need to get done today. Now I can't deal with this person that's calling me, and like there's this fire that needs to be put out. And, now there's this other fire that needs to put out. And why can't this person just handle this? And all of those of what I'm explaining right now, those are all reactions that we're having. When we can start to shift and stop having the reactions, and we can be present in the present moment of what we're doing, that keeps us in that regulated place. The other piece of it is the awareness piece of when we get out of that regulated place and then bringing ourselves back into that regulated place. That really is what the work is. We also, part of the work is expanding that capacity that we have. So a lot of us, our capacity has really shrunk over time. When we think about when we were kids, we were just in this free flow. We weren't thinking in that way, right? We were present in the moment. We just went with life. It was a flow. It's like, okay, we went to social studies. Now we're in PE. We weren't thinking about like, later on, like, okay, now I have to go to math and I have to do this. And then after school, I have to do this. We were in this flow state, and that's ultimately the work and like what we're trying to get back to. And part of what we do as an adult is because there's so much more for us to handle, right? Is we want to increase the amount that we're able to handle. And so being able to sit with situations that are really difficult, and these could be things that are happening in the present moment. These could be things that maybe we want to accomplish in the future that may feel really scary. These could be things that have happened to us in the past that are still showing up today in our personal lives. If we can start to sit with those experiences and really somatically feel into what those feel like in our body, we can start to create safety around those things. And that tells our nervous system like, okay, this is okay for me to do. It's actually like I'm safe right now, like in this moment, and that starts to expand that capacity of what we're able to handle and hold.
So it's emotional strength training, just like where the ability to handle bigger and stronger, more unexpected emotions is nice, but that's not even the main point. The main point is to be able to handle all the unexpectedness with aplomb and without injury. Just like when we do physical strength training, having bigger muscles, being able to lift more may be something we enjoy. But the point, that's almost just a nice side effect, because the bigger impact is that when we take a tumble on the icy sidewalk, we can fall with agility and not hurt ourselves. We can lift the heavy box that comes in at work that someone needs help with without injuring ourselves. We can handle the unexpected physical activities and surprises that come along with aplomb. This emotional strength training is the same.
That's a beautiful analogy.
When you are starting to work with someone, what is the number one thing that you always start with?
So it really is dependent. This is a really good question, and it can be dependent in different ways. So if someone's coming to me with more of a chronic condition, there's a little more to unpack there, just like medical wise. I do take a holistic approach as well. So even though my main goal is to really work on that nervous system, part of what goes into that is like our sleep hygiene. And a lot of people aren't sleeping well and they're aware, but even the people who think that they are sleeping well, there's a lot of bad habits around that. And so one of those things is it's really important for us to eat within 30 minutes of getting up to kick in that circadian rhythm in our natural flow. Many things I could say about sleep in general. And if we're not getting adequate sleep and our brain isn't able to detox and go through, all that needs to go through in that nighttime, that wreaks havoc on our nervous system. And so, there's other components, medical, lifestyle, that we want to look at as well. But if someone comes to me and there's not necessarily a chronic condition going on, we want to look at like what type of work have you done in the past, emotional wise, right? And where are you currently? Because we just like how you were saying, we can injure ourselves when we're lifting weights. The same thing applies when we do this type of work. We don't want to go too fast, too quickly, because that will be too much on our nervous system. And so just like when you would go to the doctor, there is like an intake, there is an initial like session of like where we're discovering, what's the point of where we want to start at with this person, and then we kind of go from there. Most people who don't have like a medically chronic condition, where we would start is more of like a basic somatic type of exercising of, I want to feel my feet on the floor. I want to feel, my seat and me sitting in my chair. I might even go through different sensations of like the chair feels like really warm to me. The chair actually feels kind of hard to me today. And, my back is kind of swayed. I feel tightness in my chest. We can kind of work through the body and do things like that. The more work that we do, we can get really deep, and we can say, I feel this pit in my stomach every time that I feel anxious, and it's the color yellow. And what I associate with this is this story of ABCD. And when, I think of that story, what I see is this child and, this type of mode, and it's this specific like scenario. And now when I look at that and I look at like this child outside of me, I can have a lot of like compassion for her and that place that she was in during that time. And I understand that it's not where I am presently, and that's not something that I need to hold on to anymore. And I understand now, me holding on to it, of how it's affecting me in my current life and how it's showing up physically in my body, and that it's maybe created something in me that is like a specific type of pattern, like controlling, for example. I have this controlling piece, protector piece of me because of like this incident that I'm still like carrying with me. That's like a very brief overview, but we can get like really deep into those like specific types of patterns, and then becoming more aware of those patterns is how we really start to make those shifts.
I guess patterns have always arisen from past experiences, or they wouldn't be a pattern. If it was something that just happened for the first time, we might be having a reaction to it that would be for the first time. So anytime we recognize a pattern, there's always at least one, often multiple sources of those patterns that we can go back to. And if we understand and, as you say, investigate, hold space for those sources to come out, then we can have compassion for ourselves at that time, which then can heal its way forward to helping us have compassion for where we are now as a result of having done this pattern for however many days, months, years it's been.
Yeah, a huge part of that work is developing compassion for ourselves and releasing that shame. When we're able to do that, we also can do that with other people. We can start to recognize patterns in other people. We can start to recognize, what's happening in their nervous system. We learn how to map our own and can map others. And we show up differently. We're showing up differently for ourselves, and therefore we show up differently for other people as well.
Yes. Just by having compassion for ourselves, we help everyone around us have compassion for themselves, even if we don't explain that this is what we're doing. And the more compassion we have for ourselves, the more able we are to have compassion for those around us. And that also will help them have more compassion for themselves, even if, again, we don't tell them that this is what we're doing. This is one of the things I love about this inner work, is that even the tiniest bit of inside work helps everyone around us do a little bit themselves, which helps everyone around them do a little bit themselves. And pretty soon, just by working on ourselves a tiny, tiny little bit, we're helping the entire multiverse heal themselves.
Yeah, that truly is what I love about the work as well, is that ripple effect that you're describing. We have a lot more power than I think that we give ourselves. And when we can come from a regulated place, I would just encourage people to start taking note of, when you respond in certain ways. If you're responding in escalation, what are you getting back? To where if you're responding from a compassionate place, what are you getting back?
Those noticings are so interesting, I find. Especially when we can come to it from a curious place, rather than the judgment or shame or other emotion that we're used to having or have been told maybe over and over that we're supposed to have about those experiences. Because these are all things that just happened. We were always trying to do the best we could to take care of ourselves. Everyone else is always trying to do the best that they can do to take care of ourselves. There's nothing wrong about any of that. The contention comes in when the way that you know to take care of yourself prevents or conflicts in some way with the way that I know to take care of myself. And then we're each trying to take care of ourselves and causing problems for the other person. And when we can't talk about this, then this is, I think, where all the problems in the universe come from. So the more that we can understand for ourselves what's going on, and as you mentioned earlier, have some theories about what's going on for the other people we're interacting with, the more we can ameliorate and smooth those conflicts, so that even if you and I can't instantly align the way that we're taking care of ourselves to work with each other, it doesn't have to be so rough and jingly. And one thing I find helps maybe the most in doing that is just recognizing, saying out loud, I'm having a really challenging time in this conversation with you, Karen. I know that you're doing the best you can to take care of yourself, and I'm doing the best I can to take care of myself in this challenging conversation, and I'm not doing as well as I'd like. I hope that we can work through this. How are you helping your clients navigate doing all of this at the same time that they're dealing with all the business things, family things, spiritual things, everything else going on in their life?
On what to do. So just like you said, there's a lot for us to be navigating, and say, I just got done with a session, in-person session or online session with someone, and then something happens at work that can be dysregulating. And so to be able to have someone to reach out to that can help regulate their system is really a lot of the work. And to show up, for me to show up in a regulated way, teaches them what regulation really is. So a lot of us have gone through life of not knowing what that feels like, and thinking that
having that person to reach out to is so critical. I saw a statistic the other day that 70% of CEOs, heads of companies, feel they have zero people that they can talk to, that they have to do everything themselves. That's a lot to hold on to when we can't talk to our family about what's going on. We can't talk to anyone above us in the organization. We can't talk to our peers. We can't talk to people that are reporting into us. It's no wonder that you have so many people coming to you asking for help, because holding all of that emotional, intellectual stress is inevitably going to cause physical stress as well.
that's a really interesting statistic. If we could just pause there, I have not heard that one. I can see where that is really challenging in many aspects. One of those being of like, if you have a family, you're a CEO, and then you're switching those hats, right? And then to show up, you need to show up as the husband or as the father in that family environment. And so you feel like you're always the leader, and you're always the one showing up, and who's showing up for you. That's a real component. And to be able to have someone that is showing up for you can take so much weight off of you as a CEO. I would also add that there probably is components in there of like, I don't know how to get the support that I need, because we've been conditioned for so long to like pull up our bootstraps, hold it all together, not understand like how to communicate with other people when we're feeling a certain way, right? So yeah, that's a really interesting statistic.
We'll get back to the show in just a sec. But first, if you like what you're hearing so far, you're probably going to like my book, The Resilient Tech Leader, as well. Go to theresilienttechleader.com, sign up for my newsletter, and I'll give you a free copy of the PDF. And you can buy it from Amazon and everywhere else from there as well. Now, back to the show. And what you said about there's always ways for us to get the help that we want and need is critical, and I find completely true. There's always coaches like you and me, and even when we don't believe we're able to bring in someone external, I find there are invariably ways that we can talk to our family, to the board, to the people reporting into us, to our fellow executives, about what's going on with us, about the questions that we're having, that enables us to ask for help, to theorize about ideas that we're having, decisions that we're considering, in ways that invite them in to the conversation as co-conspirators, I'll say, versus peers who are out to get us and that we're supposed to know what we're doing, versus people who are reporting into us and are going to take the ideas that we're considering as commands to go and execute. Having that ability to open those conversations is so critical to healing ourselves. How do you start with your clients in opening those kinds of conversations with your client and then helping them do the same with the people that they're interacting with?
Yeah, so this is really varying as well. There's this word that keeps coming to mind for me as you're speaking, is a lot of people feel weak when they reach out for help, or even thinking about reaching out for help. Or many people that I talk to more in a medical type of environment are like, I'm not stressed. I control my stress really well. And so it's really, again, it's different depending on the person, but I think the coaching piece of this is us coming from a very curious place. So when someone responds to me that way, I want to get curious. There's something in me that's like, oh, something's going on there, and what is that? And uncovering that from that curious, compassionate place. Instead of like what we could do, or even being a leader in a corporation, right, is when someone responds in that more defensive self, we might go into more of a defensive remark back to them, or we might just like shut down and like walk away. So those are things to like really pay attention to, especially in that leadership environment. Like, what are we doing when someone responds from a part or a pattern, we could say? Are we responding back with a part or pattern from ourselves, or are we responding from that place of really being able to be curious and compassionate and be able to like really hold that space from them, being non-judgmental?
That non-judgmentality is so crucial and so challenging. The best way I've found to get started is to just take a first step. Like, I don't know maybe how to get less judgmental, but I'm going to try this thing and see what happens. And it doesn't matter if it succeeds or fails because it's just giving me data. And then from there, I'll have another thing I can try and another thing and another thing. And in the very worst case, I'm still gathering data, even if I don't believe that I'm learning anything that's helping me change. Which I've never found to be true, that we're never learning. All of that data, even the first bit of data, we're actually learning and changing. We just may not recognize it yet. For people who are listening to us talk today, Karen, and saying, oh, this sounds a lot like me. I really want to connect up with Karen and maybe she can help me out of this situation that I'm in. What's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, the best way is through my website, karenandwellness.com. They can contact me directly through the website or any of the socials that are listed on there as well.
That's great. And we'll have all those links on our show notes. And you have a toolkit to help people wire up for greater resilience.
Yeah, that's on my website as well. It is free, and I encourage you to check it out. And also, I think it's important to note here that because this work is a newer type of work, I do offer a discovery type of session where people can meet with me and we can experience the work together to see if it's something that you want to commit to.
That's great. What would you like to leave our audience with today?
I would say if you're interested in doing this work, one of the things that you can do to start really small is start implementing into your daily life. It doesn't need to be another practice that you're adding to your plate. Just start implementing into your daily life these moments of being really present. Sometimes if it's too uncomfortable to do that presence in your body, you can do it. You can start with things that are outside of you. One of the things I like a lot is just orienting to my space. So I'm in my office right now, and before I start work, sitting down and really, visually taking in what's in my office, tactily, feeling into my desk, into my pen. You can do it with one object as well. You could focus on your mouse and, see all the colors that you see in your mouse and what does it really feel like. It sounds silly, but your body and your nervous system love this. It creates a lot of safety in your nervous system being present, and that's a good tool on how we can start to build that capacity of things that we're able to handle.
I love this because this is something that we can do wherever we are. We're in the middle of a meeting feeling super stressed out. There are other people around that we can pay attention to. Notice the texture of the clothing that they have on, that we have on the table, the carpet. And no one has to know that this is what we're doing. So it's a safe way to get started and to bring ourselves back into the present moment.
Yeah, I love that.
Thank you, Karen, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, audience, for joining us today. Karen and I would love to know, what do you notice about your space right now? Thanks, and have a great day.